Good evening from New York. I'm Eric Francis Coppolino, your friendly neighborhood astrologer, here speaking to you on the day of the sun's alignment with the galactic core. That has been all day today, really yesterday too. And whatever you're feeling, that is how it feels to have the sun conjunct the core of our island in space. The Milky Way galaxy and its supermassive black hole at the center, Sagittarius A star. I am here tonight on the 18th of December 2024 with an update about the awakening readings. These are the 2025-26 annual readings that go out for practical purposes out to about the late spring or mid 2026. That is because there is a grouping of events that will be unfolding between now and then. And so I've basically treated them all as one kind of slowly unfolding simultaneous event that contains many things that each one on its own could spin the world on its finger. And we have about 5 or 6 of those things happening at once, meaning in a very short period of time. That is the sense of apprehension and potentially of eager anticipation of time as it unfolds, which is the purpose of looking at astrology. Tonight, I have finished publishing activities on the entire written reading. The only item pending is that I will get back a corrected version of the Pisces reading, which I completed yesterday on Tuesday. When I got going on Pisces, I was really quite on schedule, which is nearly impossible with this project. And I thought, all right, I am going to stop for a couple of days and continue that early in the week. And that's what I did. I had a good start, and then I just basically set it aside and did other things over the weekend, came back to it Monday, and this last chapter is quite amazing, I have to say. The annual readings of planet waves are a thing that, so far as I can tell, only I do. Jonathan Kainer used to do something similar, though working in only a 9-planet model, and he would do, I think for his 5-star customers, extended written and audio. We were really the only 2 people doing this, and Jonathan left us in 2016 or so. And every year I've done this project since this time in 1998 for the 1999 readings, the year you don't forget, and have kept at it, kept doing this project. And what it is for me as your astrologer is a way to study the astrology very closely and write about essentially the same group of aspects from 12 positions and rethink them in the way that you do in astrology, where you change the modes by one chromatic step for each sign. And so the same aspects for Taurus are completely different than what I said in Aries. There were a couple of instances where I copied a couple of paragraphs and said, this one was from a different reading. You should read this if you're not going to read that one. A little couple of things, but really like 2 or 3 that I did maybe twice. So it's incredible to have this done, and I am very eager to get it into your hands. And I am just here to tell you a little bit about what I've done and the benefit of this thing, which is that if you have any inclination to think astrology might hold any value at all, this is for you. I am not doing natal readings here, but I am doing solar chart readings. This is the chart for the sign and not for the person. But it is quite amazing to me, since I have done a lot of readings for the sign and the person, how much common ground there is, how much useful information there is. And if you know your rising sign, you get a second sign to read, and the transit information is right up there with the best that any astrologer can do, because the transits are mostly relevant by house. And that is what I am doing. That is what enables me to write in such detail. By that I mean these readings are like 18 to 25 pages with the chart that I am using, and fresh photography with each of the signs. And as I went through the chapters, which began with an ebook, like a 60-page ebook, I sat down at this desk on maybe it was September 30th or October 1st, after I returned from near Buffalo on Lake Ontario, as planned, with my head cleared and horoscopes pretty much done out to the end of November, a little bit further, and planned to write the outline. And I ended up doing a full interpretation of almost all of the planetary factors that I use. That is called the AWA. That is available for instant access while we are putting the finishing touches on these readings, which include my doing the audio segment. So that means it's going to be more than an hour of audio to accompany the written readings, so that I'm working both halves of the brain, and you will be introduced now to the same material basically 3 times. In the awa, if you have time to read it or just to pick out interesting parts, and then the written by sign and rising sign, and the audio by sign and rising sign. And so the idea here is a little like the awa is an overture, like the concept of an overture of a traditional Broadway show is to go through a medley of the songs in the show, so that when you hear them a second time, they're a little bit familiar, which makes them more enjoyable. It's always a little bit better. I mean, sometimes it's astonishing hearing a piece of music for the first time. But I think that the musical mind, and in some ways the intuitive mind, likes a bit of repetition. So the awa is like an overture with a lot of fresh information in it. And then each of the sign readings is a completely new reinterpretation of the aspects. And then I'm about to be, well, I have now officially, I'm 9 minutes and 30 seconds into the audio. This is my warm-up pitch. So in these readings, I cover pretty much everything that you're going to be reading about now for the next 18 months. And wondering, like, what the heck is this? Or you're not reading about it, and it starts to happen. Well, I got the information, and the more of an exploration of the possibilities. I am a Pisces with 4 planets in Pisces, with Cancer rising and Neptune in Scorpio. So this is the gentle, probing, intuitive, circumspect quality of my astrology. And I'm also a journalist. And the job of a journalist as far as I'm concerned, now speaking as an editor nearing retirement age, which ain't going to happen, is that the writing must be accessible to someone with no familiarity with the subject. And that is what I do. And so these readings give me a lot of space to give examples and backstory. In many of the readings, there was some synchronicity that emerged while I was doing the reading that made it into the story. For example, by far the funniest one was the week that I was just finished with Libra, or in the middle of Libra, where I'm talking a lot about this planet I've had such a hard time with called Maki Maki, associated with Easter Island, which is associated with those statues called the Moai. I was out roaming around at daybreak in a place called Ruby, New York. Well, you'll probably never go and never hear anyone mention it. Unless, of course, you're from the Woodstock area. And I was probing around the kind of parking lot of a wood shop, photographing the ice crystals on an old truck when I noticed that there were replicas of the Moai right there. They were being used to hold cardboard recycling together. Big, heavy concrete cast statues. And so on that topic, as I went through these planetary events, I have done extensive development on a number of planets that I have referenced before but have not used so much, or they've only gotten limited play. These include Maki Maki, Logos, Salacia. Now, Chiron and Eris I've had a lot to say about, but they get fresh new interpretations. Nessus, the trans-Neptunian point Zeus, and a few other of the trans-Neptunian points. So I am breaking open, exploring into new ground with these. And these planets and their patterns are providing metaphors that can inform us about the time that we're in. I also cover the Venus and Mars retrogrades. Mars retrograde happening now. Venus retrograde happening in the spring. Venus retrograde predictive of the planetary activity that's going to go on for a year and a half between Pisces and Aries. That is the path that Venus retrograde traces. And then I have also worked with all the planets either entering Aries or forming conjunctions in Aries. That's Neptune, Saturn, Chiron, and Eris. And Jupiter entering Cancer, Uranus entering Gemini, a kind of a wrap-up of Pluto and Capricorn in many of the signs. The signs have different emphasis and different strengths, and so there are a good few roundups of the whole Pluto and Capricorn experience, particularly in the Sag and Cap readings. And the very important one in the Pisces reading about Pluto and Capricorn and its effect on the social world. And so that's part of what's in there. And I noticed an emphasis on reviewing the past. Now, I do not dwell on the past, but I make sure that wherever necessary, I talk about what this experience has been about. These long transits, for example, Neptune in Pisces, which is going to be ending after about, all told, about 14 years, a little bit more. Pluto in Capricorn ending after about, that's since 2008 through 2025. I guess that's about 15 years. And other important things that we have come to take for granted that are about to change. And so I give enough retrospective so that you have context of where you've been, where you are, and where you're going. Now, it's important to understand that while astrology is based on astronomy, the thing that I'm looking at is an actual map of planetary positions. astrology itself is basically about as scientific as writing music. There is a lot of theory underneath a piece of music. You can hear it sometimes, and then someone can explain what's going on. There is rhythm, there is key, there are chord progressions, but ultimately the writing of the song is an expression of beauty, an expression of something other than pure logic, even though it follows the theory in many ways. And so that is astrology. It is a world of metaphors. It is, I like to think of it as fiction based on a true story. And so I am not writing in such a way that boxes you into anything, but rather in a way that offers multiple interpretations and expands the possibilities and describes the nature of the environment, that describes the nature of the territory into which we are collectively entering. Now, one of the things about astrology that I am personally here to offer something different from is it is very often solipsistic. It tends to be about people and the astrologer's perception of their little life. And while I am a very private person and I live my contained life in a very full way, I am also a man of the world. I have lived in many countries. I have covered hundreds of journalistic topics, sometimes holding on to developing an issue for 10 or 15 years. And so that gives me a lot of context and a lot of understanding of what the world is about, and additionally how astrology and the world interplay with one another. And so I am not writing your story as being cast into the small world of your household, your relationship and your job, maybe your kids. I'm looking at you as an actor in the world. And I think this is something that I have never seen in astrology. I've read a few good astrology books out there, but I have not seen an astrologer really place the person who this chart is about in the great world of all the possibilities and all the factors in the environment, or at least some of the factors that are influencing us. Because first of all, this is just necessary, but one of the things happening in 2025 and 26 is that the intersection of the personal and the collective becomes a very, very busy place. Now, this has been ramping up tremendously since Y2K. The New Year's Eve, 1999, this is the Chiron-Pluto conjunction, and we were all told that the computing environment, the shitty computing environment installed in the 1960s with 2-digit year, they didn't want to waste four how many bits or bytes to have the night. Computer systems installed in 1970 just said 70, and the first big computer story, besides the Time magazine saying hello internet, email, internet, was this whole thing might just come collapsing on us. Everything might stop. Stoplights might stop. They might go back to thinking it's 1900, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this was this real incursion of the collective onto the personal. That is the nature of digital. And also the nature of digital is that one person can write one ridiculous tweet about the rapture or something and get 5 million likes on this. And so we are many of us are sort of sitting on the catapult pointed out by Andy Warhol of having 15 minutes of world fame. Some people are good at getting that 15 minutes of world fame approximately every 20 minutes. So I will end on this note. The theme that developed, not really the plot, the underlying theme, this message soaked throughout this project has been developing methods and approaches to keeping your sanity and remaining creative and human in the digital realm. And so, in a sense, that was the problem that I was looking to solve. And it turns out that, first of all, we are dealing with this new God. I forget which of the signs where I say, behold, there's a new God on the planet that has all these properties of, we're totally dependent upon it. It's omniscient. It's omnipotent. It's everywhere. It sees you everywhere you go. It follows you around. God knows if a satellite is tracking your Discover card. It could. They want to have the money be on the internet, like really on the blockchain. And so my sense is that this is what we're confronting. This is the changes that this has done to people, the way this has rearranged consciousness and reality and our sense of who we are, whether our lives have meaning, what our bodies are and are for, what our relationships are and are for, what food is being rethought through. As you can tap a thing and a pizza shows up, and that's it. That's all you have to do is you make one tap on an app, and it's supposedly exactly the pizza that you want shows up at your door, and 20 minutes later, however long it takes. I would never, ever, ever do this, by the way. Well, where are we? The chaos, the psychic stress, the pain, the excitement, but mainly the chaos of the world, this sense that we are really floating on a bubble, is a full manifestation of the digital realm. And this is basically, in the mathematical sense, chaos. And I have found after 7 years of preparation to do astrology, and then it'll be this is my 30th year of doing astrology after those 7 years of spiritual preparation and therapy preparation, that the thing about astrology, that if you want to conceive of it as being philosophically or scientifically valid, is that astrology is a branch of chaos theory. It is using patterns that are, by all indications, total chaos. I'm reading 100 planets, approximately 50 asteroids, 9 or 10 conventional planets, whatever you might think of that as, and then a whole bunch of trans-Neptunian objects, trans-Neptunian points, centaurs, special points, and all that. Well, there's never 2 minutes, 1 minute alike ever in the history of humanity. And so by peering into this kind of chaos generation machine, whatever it might be, what the chart is, that provides a portal, a metaphor, a guide for living in these very chaotic times that we are in. And if my writing or my astrology seems to make sense in an unusual way, that's a result of making that connection between working with what I think is the first ever applied chaos theory, long before that term was ever made up. That's in the 80s, I think. I think it's like in the mid-1980s, and Benoit Mandelbrot with the Mandelbrot set, with inventing, essentially discovering fractalization. This is this is how astrology really works. There's a pattern recognition thing that I can bring through many different skills I've developed over time, whether it's art or music or whatever it might be, astrology itself, and then the ability to present the material in an engaging, beautiful, straightforward way that never, ever sacrifices depth. You'll be able to read these readings or listen over and over again and get something completely new every time. And if you listen in 10 years or read it in 10 years, it will be just as interesting and just as relevant. We're going to publish some of the past annuals. And by the way, when you order, you will immediately have access to last year's annual in full, the video and the written readings from somewhere in between, as well as the full text of what I think of as the previously best annual that I did that came out in 21 called Aquarian Era, Aquarian Age. Those are readings for 2021 through 2024. So here we have been. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. There are new offers coming out for this on a regular basis. I think we're going to do a chart kit plus diary and pen. Now we've moved a lot of chart sets, like custom astrology chart sets. These things are absolutely beautiful. Cast in 2 house systems with blank wheels and blank paper and everything you need. Charts signed personally by me in this beautiful pocket folder with all kinds of goodies stashed in. And now a lot of people have their charts in their hands who never had them before. And my concept is to bring astrology to you without having to do the 30 years of work that I had to do. And that has taken 30 years of practice of doing that very thing, of doing my absolute best to give you the full power, benefit, and utility and philosophical beauty of astrology without having to do all of that work. Now, of course, what you do on the personal level is more than enough. These readings open up subject area. They will have ideas about where you're at and your development. And I, in the spirit of the Quakers, do a number of queries. And that's what you have. One last thought. I'm now 28 minutes and 45 seconds into the audio. So now I'm going to do the whole thing over again as an audio presentation, and 12 different audio presentations. These are going to focus on vocation, which is calling, career, profession, work, business. That's where I'm going to angle the audio reads. They're going to have a theme that I have said I've chosen. Everyone will benefit from this because we've all been thrust partially, completely into the gig economy. No matter what you do, school teacher, firefighter, something like that, the gig economy is upon you, and that is digital. And so I'm here. I will have that, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I think going in with a cohesive idea is going to get a good result. And I am beyond thrilled to tell you that I am done with the written readings on December 18th. I am usually scrambling on Christmas morning. I have not had a calm Christmas, really, a couple of times. I've just set it all aside, but still the writing kind of hanging over me. Not this year. New territory. All right. We're going to go out with Sitting Still by Kristen Williams. a contributor to the Vision Quest Project. Vision Quest Project, by the way, began with the 2016 annual reading of Planet Waves. I got some musicians together to do music for the annual edition. This is an annual that comes with its own music, its own art, its own photography, and that includes Sitting Still. It's basically a musical reflection on not having to drive anywhere that day. Kristen, a very busy mom, and got a day where she could just be still. Here you go. Signing off, 8:04 p.m. Sun conjunct the galaxy. Lots of love, and bye for now.